In this lecture, we're going to have a more detailed and in-depth look at how to style, customize, and color our plots. Let's move on over into our Jupyter Notebook and get started. For this lecture, I'll just work through the existing notebook file, as we'll mostly be looking at examples and just going over the plot types that we've already looked at. Let's begin by having a look at color palettes within Seaborn. Color palettes can be used to customize the colors of our plots. We've touched on these very briefly when we looked before at how to change the colors of some of our plots, but let's now have a look at some more of the options here. If we navigate to this link here within the notebook file, this will take us to the Seaborn documentation. As we scroll down this page, we'll be able to see a bunch of different examples of color palettes along with their name and what they look like. So as we go through here, you'll be able to see which of these you like the look of and then choose one for your plot accordingly. Back in our notebook, I've given a few examples of some of the more popular color palettes here, such as deep, muted, bright, pastel, and rocket. To demonstrate these, I've just gone ahead and created a simple scatter plot which shows the weight and miles per gallon of the cars in our miles per gallon data frame that we've been using throughout this section. And then I've also set the hue argument to be our origin column so that we can see the difference between countries. Below this, I've then created the same chart but changed the palette to be rocket, which is one of the examples from the documentation before. And then we can see the difference between our two charts here. So setting this argument has basically just changed the color palette and color mapping of the plot. We could change this to any of the examples from the previous documentation page that we just had open, such as Viridis, Flare, or any of these examples here. So anytime that you want to choose some different colors for your plot, you can have a look at the color palettes available and then choose one that you like the best. Before moving on, I'd also like to mention here that you can use any of the matplotlib color maps with our Seaborn plots too. I've put a link here to the matplotlib documentation page, which provides you with a list and details on all of the options available. Next up, we'll have a look at styles in Seaborn, which we can use to change the overall appearance of our plots. Some common styles that you'll see used within Seaborn are darkgrid, whitegrid, dark, white, and ticks. Using the same scatter plot from above, this is what our plot looks like with the rocket color palette applied and without any styles. And I also increased the figure size as well, just so that it's easier to see what's going on. In the example below this, I call the sns.setStyle function and then pass in the dark grid style. And we can see from the result of this that instead of getting the white background that we had before, we now have a grey grid instead. And we could change this to any of the other styles available, the most common of which are listed here. To revert your style back to how it was originally, the best way to do this is to just restart your kernel and then rerun the cell. Okay, and then the final thing that we'll look at in this lecture are contexts. Contexts can be used to control the scale and sizing of your plot elements. So let's say, for example, that you needed to increase the scale of your plot as you're going to put it on a poster. To do this, we can just call the sns.set_context function. And then the available contexts are either notebook, paper, talk, and poster. Of these options, notebook is the default option. Paper is a little smaller, and then talk and poster are larger, like we can see from these two examples below. And then just to quickly show you, this is what paper looks like for our scale. So just a bit smaller than our notebook option. Okay, so that's it there for the main styling and customization options for our plots in Seaborn. In the next lecture, we'll have a look at some practice activities and questions for you to go through, which again will be very helpful for you to go through and consolidate your learning from the topics we've covered in this section. I hope you're enjoying the section so far and that everything's making sense, but if you've got any questions, then again, just please feel free to post them down in the Q&A section below, and I'll help you out with any questions that you might have. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you all in the next lecture